No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken Live episode number 197. And breaking right now, a bombshell recording leaked to the Daily Telegraph suggests the Conservatives are secretly plotting a deal with Reform UK, as sources say Nigel Farage has always desired a reverse takeover of the party of Boris Johnson and Theresa May.
What you want to do is, like I said, where UKIP came second and we were a very, very distant fourth, like in Runcorn, like where Mike Amesbury punched his constituents, you'd probably say there, let Reform win that seat, because you might need them in the southwest, that we win a seat.
But if Nigel Farage is going to have his future determined by Laurence Fox, well, it could be over with one post on X.
I've been to enough parties with enough members of the very, very acceptable British establishment to bury some people, and I could actually bury Farage if I wanted to, in one tweet.
So I've asked Laurence what he is referring to, and I'll tell you his response later in the show. And actually, I'll have all the political drama of the day next in my digest. Then, Avengers Assemble, Mahyar Tousi is here, and this is because I am appearing in a brand new Tousi TV bombshell original documentary cancelled. We will tell you all about that shortly. Also coming up on the show today, a massive blow to Prince Harry as the Charity Commission opens an official investigation into claims and counterclaims at the Sentable Charity that he set up to honour the memory of his mother, Princess Diana. And all because Meghan Markle humiliated and then bullied the charity's accomplished boss, Dr Sophie Chandauka, who has this evening welcomed the probe. Piers Morgan's response is quite something, so we'll go into that shortly. Then more royal stuff on the uncancelled after show on Substack, as Meghan Markle's As Ever launch is exposed as a sham. I'll be joined by royal YouTube sensation According to Taz. For all of the shock details, you can sign up to watch www.outspoken.live on Substack. We'll also, of course, reveal the Greatest Britain and Union Jackass before the end of the show. Union Jackass you can vote for right now in the live chat if you are watching on YouTube. But here are your nominations today. Similar theme, Meghan Markle nominated by Lady MFC for not denouncing her army of online trolls, the Sussex Squad, who are viciously attacking Dr Sophie Chandauka. Redmond Sullivan nominated by Anna Ireland. A male fencer, except on the 2nd of April this year, competed as a woman in a US fencing event in Maryland. I've seen the video of this, actually, and it's just really, really shocking. His opponent took the knee and removed her mask in protest. And the third nomination from @Jane Kendrick, Sadiq Khan, for refusing an investigation into the Pakistani rape gangs in London. We'll announce the winner and go through some of your comments at the end of the show. But now, let's go. An electoral pact between the Conservatives and Reform UK is being actively discussed at the highest level of both parties. Although I will admit there remains a host of problems. The most significant for the Tories being that Nigel Farage wants a reverse takeover of the party of Boris Johnson and Theresa May, and he will demand to be Prime Minister. I am told that is his demand in any form of coalition deal. Now, both parties have spent months denying what is probably inevitable. The argument for them has to be we will go it alone come what may. But a bombshell leaked recording to the Daily Telegraph reveals the secret talks that are taking place behind closed doors. The newspaper was leaked a secret recording of Esther McVeigh at the True Blue Patrons Dinner last month, advocating for a deal as early as the Runcorn and Helsby by-election.
What you want to do is, like I said, where UKIP came second and we were a very, very distant fourth, like in Runcorn, like where Mike Amesbury punched his constituents, you'd probably say there, let Reform win that seat, because you might need them in the southwest, that we win a seat.
Now, she explained her rationale further. Watch.
So you don't really know where things are going to go. But yes, I'm a pragmatist, and I think Conservatives are pragmatists. And when we get to the general election, would I be looking at an electoral pact? Absolutely I would. We don't want two right-wing parties cutting our own throats and Labour getting in, which could happen. So we do have to be pragmatic, and Phil's spot on. I know Nigel, I know Richard Tice, I know Lee, I know them all very, very well indeed. And I'd sooner say to them, there's a couple of seats you can get there that we came a very distant fourth and you came second. We'll stay out of the way. I want you to win it. And they can do the same for us. But let's see where we're going first. But like Phil says, if we keep a dialogue going, you keep in touch with one another, you're friends with one another, it's a lot easier to do that down the line than if you fall out with each other and say, I'll never do anything with you. But then I said I'm a pragmatist.
So confirmation that dialogue is taking place at the highest levels of both parties. As the Daily Telegraph's political editor Ben Riley-Smith, who obtained the leaked recording, said, though, that is very much not the leadership's line, the Tory leadership's line. And he added McVeigh was in the cabinet this time last year, also a former work and pension secretary. Here's some more. And she says it's fascinating as it offers a hint of what Tory MPs past and present are talking about should they do a deal. Right now, Reform is topping polls in the Runcorn by-election. The seat is vacant after Labour MP Mike Amesbury quit after punching a voter. Tories are a distant third. Kemi Badenoch has ruled out doing any electoral deal with Nigel Farage, says it's for the birds. But McVeigh has doubled down, by the way, when approached by the Telegraph about her stance, saying without a deal with Reform, we risk letting the socialists back in again, and country should always come first. Now, as you can imagine, Labour are having a field day with this leak. They've seized on it today, writing, Esther McVeigh is the latest senior Tory to talk up a coalition with Reform. A vote for Reform is a vote to let the Tories back in. The Conservatives broke our public services and Reform will make you pay for routine healthcare. Don't risk it. So Nigel Farage, on his birthday in the past hour, has just pushed back in a full-throttled manner, but not actually about the Tories, but Labour and its lying Prime Minister Slippery Starmer, who clearly understands that Reform remains his biggest electoral threat. Watch.
So the local elections are fully launched. We had our big rally up in Birmingham, the Liberal Democrats, Conservatives, and today the Prime Minister launched the Labour campaign for the 1st of May. Just to remind you, it's county council elections, well, apart from those that have been cancelled in areas where Reform was strongest. It's unitaries, it's 6 mayoral contests, and don't forget the by-election in Runcorn and Helsby. So the stakes are pretty high for May the 1st. What is really interesting is the Prime Minister isn't really even bothering to talk about the Conservative Party. It's Reform. That's who the Labour Party are genuinely scared of. And I have to say, he's resorted already at the launch to outright Labour lies. He says we want to charge people to use the NHS. No, we don't. We want a better, cheaper funding model. He accuses us of falling over Putin. No, we think what Putin's done in Ukraine is absolutely wrong. But, Prime Minister, are you really going to commit a large chunk of the British Army to be in Ukraine for 5, 10 or 20 or 30 years? Because on that, we do take issue and we're genuinely worried. No, Labour are lying through their teeth because they can't defend the fact that an extra 7.2 million foreign-born people are now on GP lists. They can't defend the fact that the economy is going down the drain and that smash the gangs, forget it, record numbers this year so far across the English Channel. We will stick to the facts. We will not lie. And I tell you what, I'm seeing a Prime Minister who's very, very scared.
The MSM is doing all it can to destroy Farage's 61st birthday, by the way, with Politico this morning suggesting that the Reform leader's special relationship with Donald Trump has cooled because he's not making him a video message this year. But I have to say, while the MSM is obsessed with the Tory-Reform dynamics, within the right, the biggest concern remains the defenestration of Rupert Lowe in favour of Reform's chairman Zia Youssef, who Farage backed in spectacular style at that Birmingham rally. Watch.
Zia has given dedication, hard work, belief, helping me, helping us
do what we can do. Zia, as chairman, is an absolute superstar and has a major future in British politics. Where is he? Where is he? He's somewhere. I saw him in the green room. He's somewhere.
But he wasn't on stage, was he? Because at the moment, amongst the base, Zia Yusuf is viewed as the hater and wrecker who actually destroyed this relationship between Rupert Lowe and Reform UK by calling the cops on the guy. And Yusuf is thought to remain a block to Farage ally Andre Walker's plan to bring both Rupert and Ben Habib, back into the party.
There needs to be more leadership from both Farage and from Rupert Lowe. And part of that leadership, I think, is the kiss and make up between the two of them. I think Ben Habib should broker the deal because he knows both and is highly trusted. He is the kind of pope, if you like, of our religion, of patriotism and right-wingery. God, the religious metaphors have gone far too far. But that's what we have to do. And we have to take seriously this concept of not saying, I support him or I support him, and take seriously this concept of not saying, I'm not watching Andre anymore because he hasn't supported Rupert, or I'm not watching Mahyar Tousi anymore because he's not supported Nigel. We have to get into the mindset of recognising that unity is strength and disunity is weakness.
So, can the right ever be united with these massive egos all at play? Mahyar Tousi is here now to discuss. Mahyar, so this is like so interesting on so many levels. Can we start with this leak though? This leak from Esther McVey, which suggests that senior Tories believe there is a deal to be done with Reform UK. Do you get the sense that's what's being discussed, even though both parties publicly are saying, oh, no, absolutely not, we'll never do a deal?
Yes. Well, firstly, hello, Dan.
Hello,
thank you for having
great to have you.
So, on the one hand, this is still status quo, which means the Tories and Reform, whether they like it or not, whether their supporters like it or not, inevitably they'll have to do some sort of coalition or pact as it stands now, because all three parties are neck and neck. I love how all three parties are neck and neck and each one of them are claiming to be popular. I'm like, you're all neck and neck. None of you is popular.
We hate you all at the moment.
Yeah,
we hate you all.
That's basically it. They're the three uni party. The problem is, so the Tory party lives based on survival. And if that means that at this time, they'll have to do a pact, and they state in a very natural way, like Esther McVey and the others, it's not like some sort of shock statement from them among the Tories, then they will do it. And we do know that Nigel Farage and those type of Tories who are in Reform always wanted to be accepted by the Tory party, but they couldn't, so they thought that they have to find a different way. For example, we had I was speaking to one of the senior people close to Nigel Farage and Reform at a place where you were there as well, Dan, and he said that because I said, well, Reform is saying they want to destroy the Tory party. They say, no, Nigel did not say that. Yusuf said that. Zia Yusuf, they were very proactively defending, saying, no, we don't want to destroy the Tory party. That's Zia Yusuf. Zia saying it off the record. He wants to destroy the Tory party, but no, we don't want to destroy the Tory party. So you can see the language from Esther McVey as a Tory, and of course, the surrogates of Reform UK saying, yeah, we don't really want to destroy the other party. It's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, but isn't this the big worry though, Mahyar? Because actually, do you get the sense that maybe deep down, even though he'd never publicly admitted, Nigel just wants to be leader of the Tories? So if there is a way to engineer some sort of reverse takeover, he might take that. Whereas I know the anger amongst our audiences with what the Tories did over the past 14 years.
Yeah, knows that too. And even if deep inside he would like that, he's not going to do it the way we described it, as in he's not going to infiltrate the Tory party and somehow take it over by destroying it. It is going to be, I think the aim is to do a similar thing that happened in Canada, And when the alternative right-wing party forces the establishment right-wing party to basically
also
fold.
called Reform, interestingly.
Literally, yeah, exactly. So, but I think the Tories, because they have to be a little bit quiet for now because nobody wants to hear from them. But at the same time, when they're quiet, people say, "What are they doing?" It's a lose-lose situation for the Tory party. But they have a couple of options: either stay with Kemi Badenoch and be forced to do some sort of pact with Nigel Farage, or get rid of her within the next year and go radical. And I don't know, perhaps someone like Robert Jenrick, and then see what happens. Because
Who I
there's
saw
no
you
other...
bumped into the other day, Maya.
Yes, I know.
What was he telling you? Because I mean, I have to say, I think he's turning into a bit of a political superstar. And I know he's had this Damascene conversion, but actually, as long as he's genuine, like, do you think he's genuine?
Well, I've known him for about 12 years now, longer, I think. And he is genuine in a sense that when he was a government minister, everybody was like, what is he doing? Why is he such a wet lettuce? Because that's not the generic when we knew. And so now his obviously true self has come out. But a lot of people are basically still looking at him as that government minister. So he needs to obviously rebrand that anyway. But it's interesting because now that obviously I just report the news and I give my opinion based on obviously what's happening. So now that I criticize Zia Youssef and Reform UK, people are saying, Mahyar is a Tory. When I was criticizing the Tories, they were saying, Mahyar is Reform. And then they're now saying Mahyar is UKIP. I'm like, I can't be all parties at the same time. I can't multitask, guys.
Yeah, Mahyar, I was watching one of your episodes on Tousi TV the other day about this whole Rupert Lowe fallout. And your point of view is that actually we don't need to support anyone yet. It's too early in the electoral cycle. And you think what we need to do, and I think this is where I'm at too, is basically try and push all of these people in the direction that we need, rather than nail our colours to the mast at this point.
Yes, it's interesting because the reason I said that is because a lot of people in the country, it's a very Western European thing where we always have to be dependent on others. If somebody has to save us, and we have to basically be tribal. I said this because a lot of people are saying, no, Mahyar or Andre or Dan or whoever, you should do this. You should support this party. You should push for this because we're going to die. Or they should support this party now. I'm like, no, it's not the job of people who are outside of parties, whether you want to call them voters or supporters or whatever. It's not their job to do the bidding for any political party, whether it's Reform or the Tories or Labour. It's the job of the parties to do it. So, the fact that people, supporters of each party, for example, supporters of the Tories or supporters of Reform, are shouting at me and others saying, no, you should do this, you should support them, you should not call it out. Like, it's not our job to make those parties look good. It's the job of those parties to do a better job. And it's not our job to even support them right now. Just stay quiet, wait for the parties to get close to the election, get their act together, and then you can see, I'd say this as a joke, even if the Green Party comes up with a good manifesto, I'll support them, but that's never going to happen.
No, I don't think I could go that far. But you talk about the parties making themselves look good, right? You have to admit, Reform UK, unfortunately, has made itself look so terrible with what they did to Rupert Lowe. And I'm still not over it. Like, calling the cops on this guy means you literally believe that he should go to court, that he should be ruined after decades in business as a very successful man, right? Like, Rupert Lowe is totally clean. If you look at his track record, his past, his relationship, all of it. You literally want him to go to jail because you had a falling out with Zia Youssef. Like, for me, that was a step too far.
Yeah, it's not really fully damaging their reputation, depending on who you're actually speaking to, because it is a very Tory centrist attitude that the leadership of Reform currently have. The sort of stuff that David Cameron and George Osborne would have done, in terms of throwing people under the bus and basically just politically execute them. And so from the perspective of the centrists from the Tory party who are defecting to Reform, they like it, actually. They quite like that the headquarters of Reform, just like the Tory central office, CCHQ, are very centralized and very authoritarian. They like that. So for a lot of other people, especially people who are not necessarily into that sort of politics, and they want to be more populist or more grassroots. They don't like it, yeah, of course. And I'm on that side. I don't like that sort of attitude that you mentioned about how they're treating Rupert Lowe. But the more centrist, more politically bubbly minded in terms of Westminster bubble, they're fine with it. So Reform UK has gone down a little bit in the opinion polls, but not fully, because they are getting more support from the centrist Tories. So
but their momentum has stalled, hasn't it? Like, it's really interesting. They're trying to say, no, everything's fine. But at that Birmingham rally, I was literally watching, and you know how they have the membership ticker, and it was going up and up and up and up until the Rupert Lowe thing happened. And it's really stalled now around the 220,000 mark. And actually, and 220,000, don't get me wrong, that's amazing. But like, they were going like that. And look, this actually happened on the night, Mahyar. I saw it with my own eyes. Look, it was going down. And then they had to take it off screen. Now, I'm not saying that to try and like bash Reform UK. I'm just frustrated because it's like, you could be at 250,000 right now if you just found a way to deal with Rupert Lowe. And okay, maybe he is difficult behind the scenes. Personally, that has been never my experience. Like, I've dealt with Rupert Lowe for years and years and years. He's been a gentleman. He's always been on time. He appeared on my GB News show. He always replied to my messages. That's my personal experience. But even if he was a little bit difficult, right, he's your star. He's your potential future Home Secretary. Like, just work it out. You know Nigel really well personally. Do you think it was just an ego thing? Like, was he threatened by Rupert?
It's a clash of worldviews and personalities, in the sense that it's not really just about Rupert Lowe. There've been many others for different reasons. And the issue is individuals like Nigel Farage are reactionary. It's interesting that people like Nigel Farage saying they are friends with Donald Trump. And President Trump is actually proactive, despite what the media says, in the sense that when, for example, Donald Trump is under attack, he hits back, but then he actually has something to offer. He says, anyway, we're doing this campaign, we're going to fight back. Whereas Nigel Farage, over the last few weeks, he's been very distracted. So you were talking about the momentum. Yes, every press conference is either about defending Zia Yusuf, which shouldn't be on the agenda, just talk about the policies, or it's just the vibe is not there. So the Birmingham rally was supposed to be like the biggest, so sexy and everything else, which if that were during the general election, it would have been treated like the big rally that Trump did in New York just before the presidential election. But it wasn't, even though obviously Farage also copied Trump in terms of all the whatever the tractors and whatever they were using to do publicity stunts. It didn't really stick because he's reactionary and he spends more time. You can see the facial expressions, body language. He's on the defensive right now. Instead of just basically saying, you know what, I'm just going to talk about my things. He made the same mistake with Tommy Robinson. He didn't have to keep attacking Tommy Robinson. Tommy was in jail anyway. Tommy wasn't even saying anything. The media were asking Reform UK and Nigel about Tommy. Just say, oh, well, yeah, I don't know Tommy personally. He's done some stuff. He's not really a member of our party. Anyway, next question. Instead, Nigel Farage kept attacking him and kept basically saying that, for example, he's a criminal against beating of women or whatever, which is not true, and many other random things that came up. So by talking about it more, he was more on the defensive in general, and that's a problem.
Breaking right now, Laurence Fox has responded to a comment going viral where he has suggested that he could ruin the career of Nigel Farage with just one post on X. Watch.
I've been to enough parties with enough members of the very, very acceptable British establishment to bury some people. And I could actually bury Farage if I wanted to with one tweet.
Okay, I'll show you some more of that interview in just a moment. But first, Mahyar Tousi of Tousi TV, I messaged Laurence and I was like, what are you referring to? What's going on here? His reply, I'm waiting until 6 weeks before the 2029 general election for that one. So he's serious here. What do you think he's referring to? And is this a good idea for Laurence to be trying to destroy Nigel Farage, or should we all be supporting each other on this side of the aisle?
Well, okay, no, yeah, the stuff that could come out, that's a whole different thing. But in terms of the way Laurence is, and Laurence is a good friend of mine as well, but the way he's treating it, it's very Hollywoody, and it's very it might backfire on him, because if he's saying I've got something very important, right, and if it's a moral duty for people to know, right, then just release it now. For example, you're saying I'm going to wait until 2029. It's sort of like, basically, I'm going to play a game. It might backfire massively on Laurence himself. So he has to be careful with that. But yeah, I mean, the things that could come out, I mean, a number of people could be destroyed with the very, very obvious posts about personal lives and everything else. But that's just politicians, you know. And everybody has things under, well, skeletons in their closets and other things in the closets.
Yeah, and yes, although I don't think that's the issue with Nigel.
No.
but look, I want to be really clear on this. Personally, I don't think Nigel Farage has ever set himself up as some type of paragon of virtue, right? Like, I watched that interview between him and Jordan Peterson at ARC the other day, and Nigel was the first to say, look, I'm not really one to be speaking about morality because I've had numerous wives and I've had numerous affairs. So if this is just about his personal life, I think it's like Donald Trump. Everyone thought that the Donald Trump Inside Hollywood tape, you know, the Billy Bush tape, would destroy Trump. And it didn't, because it's like, you know, it's sort of, yeah, I think if this is some type of revelation about Nigel's personal life, it won't destroy him. That's my view.
No, of course not. Yeah, I mean, you can't throw mud at mud. And the same applies to people like Trump, Farage, and Boris Johnson. So unless there's obviously a deeper scandal, then yeah, no one will actually care.
Well, I'm on the Mark Stein cruise next week with Laurence, so I'm like, okay, when you're drunk, you're going to tell me. But there was more. There was a little bit more substance to what he was talking about overall about Farage in this interview with the brilliant, and big up, by the way, to Liam Tufts of the Dozen podcast, someone who I know you know very well, Mahyar. So let's watch a little bit more of this interview.
I have seen over the years, you know, the sabotage, the attacks, the lies, the fake news, even someone like Farage, a man in his position of responsibility, his sound bites travel. I've heard him fucking lie about him on LBC. That really,
on your own fucking
pissed me
side.
off.
On your own side.
Unnecessary.
The only person, you either say nothing because you're a pussy, or stand up and do what the people of this country expect an insurgent opposition party to do, which is say, we believe in what people's right to free expression, and we believe in the right to an assumed good reputation as well. Don't fucking destroy people's reputation. No one looks back at your life, Nigel, in that way.
Yeah, no one
and
ever...
you've stabbed arsehole after arsehole in the back. Nigel Farage, to me, is woke as they come. He's so into free speech as long as it's his own.
Establishment.
He's totally establishment. He's been dead centre of every single time we have tried to take on the establishment. He has been dead centre or scupped it himself. That's what you got to think about. And Tommy, all he's ever tried to do is get the truth out there. Now, can you criticise his methods? Can you criticise his past and his history? Yeah, of course you can. That's why we should never live in a world that's so puritanical that people can't have a past.
Yeah, the only people that can be taken notice of are the ones that are perfect. Well, newsflash.
Yeah, well, they're all fucking kids.
And they don't exist.
They're all doing really dodgy shit paid for.
Okay, my goodness me. Okay, there's lots to pick up on there because I really want to talk about this whole Reform UK vetting thing. But first, what's interesting is what led Laurence to make the statement that he did was his anger over Nigel's comments about Tommy Robinson. Now, you're friends with both men, Mahyar, but it was bad, wasn't it? I mean, Nigel went on LBC and tried to suggest that Tommy Robinson had been violent against women. Like, what was that about?
Yeah, firstly, I'm glad you stopped the clip there, because after a couple of more F words, you would have been completely demonetized.
I know, goodness, I should have beeped them out probably, but there we go.
But no, that's true. Yeah, there is a good point to be made about people like Nigel Farage and their attitude towards people like Tommy. So partly, and because Laurence said he's woke, he's not woke. He's what we call politically Tory. and traditionally politically, or not culturally conservative in that sense. Obviously, he's relatively traditional, but politically cautious Tory, which means that these people also become very out of touch. For example, you got Tory politicians and Nigel Farage who got their news from 12 years ago, 15 years ago, BBC News, and they haven't actually updated their information in their own brain. So if they've heard something about someone like Tommy Robinson 15 years ago, that's basically enough for them if they heard it from the BBC, and they don't tend to do their own homework. Now, you don't have to say Tommy's an angel. I mean, actually, I've spoken to Tommy. Tommy keeps saying, I'm not an angel. I know, because he's got a lot of flaws, but you can still acknowledge his work. And he's still also a good friend. And no, he's not far right. He's not a thug. He's not like some sort of a skinhead. From day one, he was fighting against those guys and ethno-nationalists. It's lazy. And obviously you mentioned the accusations that he beats up women or whatever, which again, it was about one story which was not true. His ex-wife came out and defended him, and there's no other evidence of that. It's not even just that. It's the fact that it's just lazy insults. And when you run out of arguments, you just basically label people as a Nazi or fascist, and then you expect the debate to be over. It's been going on since the 1950s and 60s. It's boring now.
Now, Mahyar, you saw Tommy much more recently than people like me, and I mean, it's quite a miracle, really. I think you went with Sammy Woodhouse, right? Who, by the way, we should also just give some kudos to Rupert Lowe and Sammy Woodhouse today, because she has just been announced as being part of the rape gang inquiry, which Rupert is raising money for, and that's an incredible choice. But how did you manage to see him? Because virtually everyone else, right, like Ezra Levant, Katie Hopkins, like everyone is having their visits rejected because of this thing of, oh, you might post about it on social media, but you have actually spoken about your visits on your channel and you were approved. So do you know, firstly, do you know how that happened? And secondly, how was Tommy? I know it's a couple of weeks ago now, but you're the last person who I know who actually was in there with him.
Yes, I contacted the governor of the prison, and I gave her a free membership of Tousi TV Plus.
And she'll be watching Cancelled out next week.
Exactly. No, it was luck, because I was one of the first people who went to visit before any of the restrictions. And when I came out and I did a live stream about it, it was just soft. I just said, oh, yes, Tommy's growing a ginger jihadi beard and all this, and he's eating food, and then other people went to see him. The restrictions started, and I didn't go. And then afterwards, when the backlash started, and then they had to give him some of the liberties, that's when I applied, and I got lucky. But obviously, when I went and I came back out, I broke the NDA. I still did a live stream. Now I'm banned. So.
Okay, fine. So now you're banned. But you said that Tommy was happy for you to speak, though. It
was his idea.
Got it.
Yeah. He sacrificed the next video. Maybe he didn't want to see my face, but he did say, just go for it. Tell people my message, and he was still saying big thank you to everyone, despite everything that's happened. And he was trying to keep a kind of a brave face, but you could see that he's struggling. And the fact that the courts in the recent challenge was saying, well, no, the governor says he's happy, and Tommy was there saying, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
Like,
and he's allowed phone call after phone call after phone call, apart from when actually he was trying to speak to his lawyers as demanded by the judge, and he was still cut off by the prison authorities. I mean, it's a complete disgrace. But I just want to go back to the Nigel Farage situation in terms of what Laurence Fox said in that very good but controversial interview. Do you think that Reform UK are going too far in terms of the purge of people who they are not allowing to be part of the party anymore? Because all you need to have done, Mahyar, is say one positive thing about Tommy Robinson, right? One positive thing about Tommy Robinson on social media, and you are finished, finito. So you couldn't run for Reform UK. I couldn't run for Reform UK. Not that I have any intention or desire to do so, but the point is pretty ridiculous, right? And then I'm also hearing these stories of like people who, well, there was one businesswoman who was convicted for shoplifting when she was 16 years old. She's now a very successful businesswoman who's totally turned her life around decades on. and she's been banned from running too. Nigel Farage said on Talk earlier this week that even people who have sworn, like used swear words on their social media in the past, will not be allowed to stand as candidates for Reform UK. It feels ridiculously over the top.
Oh, it will easily backfire, but not for the reasons that a lot of people think. So you can have three different versions of a right-wing party in this country. You could either have a very cautious Tory style, like more like David Cameron Tory level of centre-right party, which is basically what Reform UK is doing with the centralisation of powers. Or you could be a very radical, kind of what they say on the fringes, right? It's sort of like a UKIP or, I don't know, the early days of AFD or National Rally. That's kind of just radical. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's another option. Or the third option is essentially just a better version of being a right-wing party. So like, I don't know, a modern version of the Thatcherite Tories. So the problem with this is that if Reform UK is trying to do what the Tories are already doing by being very cautious, having their headquarters, central office, running things, ban you for saying the naughty things or whatever, then they'll be fine, but there will be a second Tory party. The problem with that, do not underestimate the Tory party historically, and because of the branding and everything that they have. Right now, most people watching this, including myself, are saying, oh, we're done with the Tory party, don't even think about them, they're traitors. But trust me, things change quickly. And I'm not saying within the next 6 months, I'm talking about 5 years, 10 years. The Tories could fix their party. My whole point is, if Reform UK wants to become like the Tory party, but just different, the Tory party could eventually wake up, and then they'll kick him out. So Reform UK needs to just be more right-wing and more robust and more populist.
Exactly. I want to see bravery from Nigel. I want to see him leading the conversation. I mean, Mahyar, you've been really close to Nigel in the past. Do you think there's been, do you think there's been like a change in him, or I mean, some people are saying, has he been captured by someone? Like, do you have any type of insight into what's going on there?
No, it's the same Nigel Farage. And we always some of us accepted him the way he was, and is it's kind of consistent, the goods and bads. For example, what he's been saying about Tommy, he's been saying it for about 50 million years, and the way he's against anybody who's controversial, it's always been like that. As UKIP leader, he literally ran away from the party because some controversial people entered the party. The reason it's more visible now is because he's no longer on the fringes. Reform UK is a parliamentary party, and the scrutiny on them from everybody, not just the mainstream media, but their own supporters. So they can see more of Nigel Farage and Reform UK compared to before. And I think it's not the fault of the supporters. It's actually a weakness for Reform UK and the leadership, because it's overwhelming when you suddenly become a serious mainstream parliamentary party and everybody's looking at you. You go to work in the House of Parliament, you walk around, everybody's looking at you, scrutiny, every step you make, you'll be questioned. So they're not ready for it, basically. They're not ready for the grown-up stage of politics. So their solution is, let's just copy the Tories. Whatever the Tories do, we'll do the same thing and we'll survive.
But like Mahyar, for example, I mean, Nigel used to come on Tousi TV, used to socialise with you. I was watching Rebel News say that they were locked out of the Birmingham rally. Nigel, like Donald Trump, one of the reasons he won, and this is widely acknowledged, right, is because he completely turned on the mainstream media and he embraced the independent media. Now, I don't get the sense that Nigel Farage and Reform UK want to do that. Do you?
No, but unless you're friendly media. So, for example, that some from the political left, like Politics Joe, that are more left wing, but kind of new media, they're invited. But no, Farage and the leadership and the chairman, especially the chairman of the party, they are traditional. They don't believe in the new media. They don't believe in grassroots and things like this. So none of us are invited. And I asked one simple question during the general election press conference for Reform, and that was before obviously they got all the seats, the 5 seats. And I simply asked very politely about what's going to happen with the illegal migrants who are already here. And I very diplomatically, I said, what do you think is on the table as an option? Mass deportation, amnesty? I even give it soft option, amnesty or something else. Nigel Farage didn't like that question, even at the time, and I was not invited to any more press conferences after that.
Wow, yeah. It's like he's too scared about the questions that we might pose compared to the questions, so interesting, that the British Bashing Corporation or Sly News might pose. Really, really fascinating. Breaking right now, Piers Morgan has lashed out at Prince Harry after the delusional Duke and his Sentebale charity is now being subjected to a charity commission investigation. This is a complete disaster. This is a total disaster for the Sussexes, especially when you remember the only reason this actually happened is because Meghan Markle is jealous of Dr. Sophie Chandauka, a woman of colour who has very successfully run Sentebale. Now, there are huge ironies, of course, huge hypocrisies, and this is what Piers Morgan pointed out today, writing, breaking. Prince Harry calls a black woman who made allegations of racism and harassment against a member of the royal family a liar. How comically ironic. I wonder if Meghan will now write to him, demanding he apologise for disbelieving the accuser's truth. And if you take a look at these new videos which have emerged of Meghan Markle on stage at this fateful event with Sentebale and also before and after the event, it's so obvious that she hates Dr. Sophie Chandauka because Dr. Sophie Chandauka is everything she's not. A classy, respectful, talented, intelligent black woman who isn't doing anything to become famous. Now, let me take you through these statements today, which will give you some type of an idea of just how bitter and difficult things are about to get for Prince Harry. So the Charity Commission announced that they are now in direct contact with parties who have raised concerns to gather evidence and assess the compliance of the charity and trustees past and present with their legal duties. The regulator's focus and line with its statutory remit will be to determine whether the charity's current and former trustees, including its chair, have fulfilled their duties and responsibilities under charity law. Well, Prince Harry threw an epic hissy fit after receiving the news. This is nuts. He has released his own statement saying, from the inception of Sentebale nearly 20 years ago, Prince Sisi and I have had a clear goal to support the children and young people in Southern Africa in memory of our mothers. What has transpired over the last week has been heartbreaking to witness, especially, and here's the key line, when such blatant lies, so yes, he is accusing Sophie Chandauka, a black woman, of being a liar, hurt those who have invested decades in their shared goals. No one suffers more than the beneficiaries of Sentebale itself. On behalf of the former trustees and patrons, we share in the relief that the Charity Commission confirmed they will be conducting a robust inquiry. We fully expect it will unveil the truth that collectively forced us to resign. We remain hopeful this will allow for the charity to be put in the right hands immediately for the sake of the communities we serve. But Dr. Sophie Chandauka has kept the receipts, folks, and she isn't having any of that. She released her own statement in the past few hours, welcoming the inquiry. And here's the key thing, with a clear warning to Prince Harry. For completeness, I should mention that we initiated an internal governance review last year, the findings of which we will share with the Charity Commission. Goodness me, Mahyar Tousi of Tousi TV, what a mess. But here's the thing, I don't even care if the Charity Commission in some way find against Dr. Sophie Chandauka, because Prince Harry is already the biggest loser here. He has literally blown up the charity that he set up in the memory, in the honour of his late mother, Princess Diana. He has blown it up because his goddamn wife couldn't get on with the chairwoman, who happens to be a successful black woman. It's extraordinary. And it's not often, actually, these days I agree with Piers Morgan, but on this I totally agree. What a total hypocrite when Harry and Meghan forced Piers Morgan out of his job at Good Morning Britain. Do you remember that? Because he called Meghan Markle a blatant liar.
Well, yeah, it is what we say, the cultural left always ends up eating itself, which is kind of fascinating. The way all these individuals, like celebrities and the organizations, whether it's the Charity Commission or the others, when their mistake is that they always sell themselves as the gods of morality. And the problem is it eventually backfires, and it's backfiring again on Harry and Meghan. And it's not really the first time, because if you go around saying, for example, Harry and Meghan were saying we were being bullied by everyone. They were being bullied by the whole country. They were being bullied by William and Kate and everybody else. And, it's not really a surprise when the story comes out that they're also, being a little bit mean, let's just say. But Meghan herself, she's just making it a little bit easier for the inevitable collapse of the marriage, which is not good for the kids, by the way. But the reality is that this is not going to last forever. And eventually, Harry needs to come back and beg for forgiveness and probably apply for a visa, because we have to withdraw his citizenship, just like Shimon Begum.
Yes. Can we do that? Can we just say, Harry, we don't want you anymore? I mean, what is...
It's ginger. So ginger jihadi, why not?
Yeah, I mean, what's so interesting though, Mahyar, is that because he has allowed this to happen, and remember, all of this actually happened because... Actually, I want to show you the video again, Mahyar, because this is the video of when Meghan Markle and Dr. Sophie Chandauka were on stage. If you listen to it, you can actually hear Meghan ordering Dr. Sophie Chandauka, do not stand next to my husband. Like, this is on stage, knowing that the cameras are there, everything. So let's watch this.
Thank you very much, Andrew Tucker, for putting on such a great day here at Jackass Polo Club. Again, a big thank you to all those who provided horses.
I mean, awful, right? But what a ridiculous thing to blow your charity up over. And now the problem is, Mahyar, is she has actually revealed to the world that the reason Sentebale is in financial difficulties is because no one's interested in donating, like as in big donors, given the way that Harry treated the royal family, given the exit from the royal family, given the Oprah Winfrey interview. And so it's not going to be easy for him to just set up another charity because he's become so toxic.
And actually, the worlds of bubbles, whether you're talking about the political bubble or Hollywood bubble or whatever, they encourage bad behavior and they give false promises. So, for example, in real world, business world, Harry and Meghan, their branding is dead. But because they're still Harry and Meghan, there are still enough investors and idiots who back them, who say, you know what, start a new podcast or start a new charity. Yeah, people are going to love it. No, they don't. And it collapses, and then you're going to have to do it again. You release the book, and then half the people who bought the book, and not many people did, they did it because they hated it. And they just wanted to, it was like a hate reading session. And this is the whole thing. If it were any other normal person with any other branding, like charity or media, podcast, business, the logical solution is just take a break. It's not going to work. Just stop digging. And this is what they keep doing every single time.
I know. And we saw this launch of the As Ever products, Mahyar, yesterday. And she thinks we're stupid, right? Because I don't know if you saw this, but just like 1 minute before the products went on sale, they had these labels on. Most of them have these labels on saying coming soon, like as in we don't have the stock available. And the Royal Rogue, who was actually doing a live YouTube video at the time, noticed that they immediately, once they'd got on sale, like they immediately changed to a sold out sign. So it's all just marketing spin to try and say that it's sold out when actually you didn't have the product to send out anyway.
It's bad. Yeah, I mean, there's just one other option that Harry could probably do at this point. The chairman of Reform UK, that job will be vacant soon. So he could do that probably.
Now, there are some more serious allegations, though, about Prince Harry bullying. And this is how Page Six has reported it today. They say that he should fear that his angry message to the charity head will leak after harassment and bullying allegations. And isn't the problem now, Mahyar, given there is this official investigation, if I was Dr. Sophie Chandauka, I would absolutely submit that message to the authorities, because she can say, well, this is part of the wider picture.
Yeah, well, it's important to be transparent. On the one hand, you don't want to overplay your hand, so we have to be consistent. So if someone's just being rude, that's one thing. If Harry's like just rude and shouted, that's one thing. But when it comes to actually being like bullying and using authority to oppress someone, then obviously that needs to be transparent regardless. The whole point, I think Dr. Sophie is kind of so far hasn't actually done overplayed her hand. So we'll find out exactly the details, because I think it will help with the broader image, as you said.
Now, Mahyar, I have to share with you a clip from Talk last night with one of my favorite ladies, Lady Colin Campbell. Because she's on with Kevin O'Sullivan, who's pretty decent, and she's very funny on this, Mahyar. I think you will enjoy it. Sold
out. I suspect that she deliberately didn't put too much on sale to make it look as if these products were really in demand.
Well, are we sure that Meghan didn't go and buy out everything, or send her cohorts to buy out everything? Because she's so devious and manipulative, and everything appears as if it's a great success. But who's spending $10 and $15 for a bottle of not even jam? And honey at $1,000 just because it's mine. I mean, Harry may have feasted off her honey pot, but the fact of the matter is I don't see anybody else going to be buying her honey. And also I understand from my Hollywood connections that Netflix has been tremendously concerned, because they actually do not think there's ever going to be a market for this. And it's actually reasonable that they would think there's not going to be a market, because the only people who would be able to afford jam and honey and all of that nonsense and sachets of fattening things. First of all, people are not so interested in fattening things anymore. But secondly, her followers, the people who admire her, are usually very poor, very disadvantaged, and very ignorant. Because if they weren't ignorant, they wouldn't admire her. No, but seriously.
No, I'm not arguing.
They're not going to be able to afford it. So the whole thing is going to be yet another. It's a recipe for disaster. And I think never did anybody deserve failure quite as much as Meghan, except possibly Harry.
She's one of my favorite women in the world, Mahyar. I could listen to Lady C all day, but I love that. Harry feasted off Meghan's honey pot. Yeah, don't want to hear too much more about that. But do you agree with her overall point though, which is effectively this has all been a sham?
Yeah, I mean, when you have a Lady C saying, why would you spend £10 or £20 on something nonsensical? That's Lady C. She would spend whatever she has on it. That means you have a problem. That even if she's criticizing the value of your product. So yeah, she's absolutely spot on.
Yeah, and I think this is just lose-lose. As I say, I think this is a lose-lose situation for Prince Harry. It's astonishing, Mahyar, when you actually just think about everything that he was prepared to lose for a woman, right? Like, yep, sure, love is one thing, but when you're literally talking about your family, every single friend, your reputation, now your charity, it's like, my God. And she doesn't even like you that much. She's just using you. Like, it is quite an astonishing human story, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're both codependent on each other, and in a toxic way, not in a good way. And this is it's not really good, considering they are still public figures. And there will be some kids who will be looking up to them, whether you like it or not. People on TikTok and all these weirdos, and it's not really good to see them as role models.
Oh yeah, well look at these people. These people have got a tattoo. They've literally got a tattoo of her brand name, as if I mean, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, you need help, or this is another fake. God knows which. Mahyar Tousi, stand by, because in just 1 minute, we are going to provide the first look at an incredible bombshell new Tousi TV documentary called Cancelled And guess what? This is very exciting. It features yours truly. So we're going to talk all about this with Mahyar, and also actually what cancellation means today in just 1 minute. So don't go anywhere. But first, a 2024 study links caffeine to higher anxiety risk. Half of North Americans are sensitive to it, and 40 million Americans are diagnosed with anxiety. Now, coffee's jitters fuel anxiety, yet it is the most used drug in the world. Coffee, that is. I'm going to admit, I was trapped too. But for me, it was those diet energy drinks, which I would chug on a regular basis to get a caffeine hit, feeling jittery, anxious, and exhausted by the mid-afternoon. Then I heard Andrew Huberman talking about theobromine, which is found in chocolate, and it provides a gentler, longer-lasting energy boost without the anxiety by improving blood flow, getting more oxygen and fuel into your brain and muscles. And that led me to Morning Being by Verso, a brew with theobromine and all the good things in chocolate, along with antioxidants and electrolytes for all-day energy, hydration, and focus. And honestly, this drink is amazing. Like, I know it's the not the morning right now, but it just tastes so good. Rich, chocolatey, smooth, and the best thing is this is cold right now, but in the morning I have it hot and it tastes just like a McDonald's hot chocolate, totally different to other coffee alternatives which actually taste awful. On top of increasing energy, Morning Bean's ingredients have been shown to reduce stress, enhance mood, and balance blood sugar. Cocoa powders, drinks, and products are commonly contaminated with high levels of toxic heavy metals, but Verso conducts third-party testing on every batch to ensure they have pure, high-quality cocoa, prioritizing safety and high flavanol content. Since I started taking Morning Bean, I'm feeling more focused with less energy crashes. I also like how I get my daily dose of superfoods from it too. So if you're looking to replace your coffee or your second cup or those energy drinks, those morning energy drinks like I used to have, give Morning Bean a try by Verso. You can click on the link in the description box below or head on over to buy.ver.so/outspoken. Use the coupon code outspoken to save 15% on your first order. I'll just repeat that address, buy.ver.so/outspoken. Remember, you've got to use the coupon code outspoken, then you will get 15% off your first order. But now, back to the show. So being cancelled, I know what it's all about. And actually, Jordan Peterson, in conversation with Laurence Fox after our dual cancellation, described the feeling as being the second worst thing a human being can go through on Earth, other than a terminal cancer diagnosis. But being cancelled is now almost becoming so commonplace. It feels like it's something we're going to have to deal with in society in a very different way. So Mahyar Tousi of Tousi TV has produced a brand new documentary. It is out next week. It is Bombshell. It is called Cancelled. Features me, which we'll come to in just a moment. But Mahyar, before we take a look at the first peak of this brilliant show, what made you decide to look into this phenomenon of cancellation, which definitely seems to be sweeping the Western world?
Yes. Well, firstly, yes, it's coming out this Sunday, 9 p.m. UK time on Tousi TV. We'll talk about that.
Excellent. I'm
yeah,
nervous. I'm nervous. I haven't seen the whole thing.
Yeah, don't worry. You're going to look good. But the issue is exactly what you said. The way you were talking about, what does it actually mean? How do you describe it? And has it changed the way people get cancelled? I was asking myself those questions for a while and with other people in our team. And we thought, well, we need to answer that question. Because some people see everything as being cancelled. Not everything is being cancelled. It's not like, for example, if you kick somebody out of your live chat on YouTube, people say you got cancelled. No, you didn't get cancelled. Or if someone gets fired, just fired, getting cancelled. No, that's not cancelled. When there is a whole pressure, mob rule mentality, whether it's from the top or everywhere else, and you tend not to be able to get back into that industry. So, for example, yourself, instead of going back to mainstream, you basically joined the new media revolution.
Yeah.
And this is what we cover in this documentary, which is coming out this Sunday. Yeah.
But thank God, Mahyar, I had the opportunity to do that. But a lot of people who are cancelled don't. And it is absolutely terrifying because you go from being someone, so for example, in my case, right, 20 years in the mainstream media, totally accepted in those circles. Yeah, I wasn't prepared to deal with their bullshit, and I did call it out at the end. And as a result, they were looking for a way to bury me. But now they want to pretend like I do not exist. I actually have no problem with that. I have zero desire to be on the mainstream media. I refuse any invitations that I receive from the likes of the BBC, the British Bashing Corporation, Sly News, etc., etc. I don't want to be that guy appearing on Question Time and having 4 people and an entire audience berate me. I don't see the need to do that. We are creating, well, as you say, Maya, we are the media now. We are creating a new ecosystem. But so many people don't have that opportunity, do they? Because if you're in an industry that relies on being employed by someone else, people are losing everything. And it's so brutal. Do you think that we need to become more understanding as a society where, yeah, we can criticize people for mistakes, we can be really tough on people for making mistakes, but we shouldn't actually be pushing for their complete departure from polite society?
Firstly, yes, you mentioned that you were in this industry for 20 years. So you were 5 years old when you started. That's quite impressive.
No Botox, no promise. All natural here, genuinely.
On that issue, actually, Toby Young, the founder of Free Speech Union, is also featured in the documentary.
Oh, yes, because he was cancelled too.
Yeah, he was just born cancelled. But he mentioned that it's becoming so widespread that everybody will eventually be cancelled, which means nobody's cancelled. So it's going to get to that point.
Yeah.
And it's already slowly getting there. And everybody's basically cancelled in terms of not necessarily individually cancelled, like, yourself, you're individually cancelled, and myself by being me. But the groups and collectives and tribes, for example, white straight men are basically cancelled. Women are now being cancelled. So it's going to get to a point where everyone's basically cancelled. Eventually, they're going to come for the black lesbian on a wheelchair. So everyone's going to be cancelled.
No one is ever going to be morally pure enough to tick all of those boxes. It's interesting, actually. I had a conversation with David Starkey about this. I love his take on cancellation, and I wish I could feel a bit more like this. Because you remember he did that interview with Darren Grimes where he used the term those damn blacks, but he wasn't at all referring to it in a racist way, like it was blown out of all proportion, because again, there was a desire to cancel this guy because he was starting to challenge narratives. And come on, he's one of our most successful historians of all time. I think one of the smartest, most brilliant people in Britain, David Starkey, right? He's cancelled by GB News now, which we'll come on to in just a moment. But he said to me, Maya, that he just wouldn't allow himself to be cancelled. And actually, he just thought, if he just said, well, you can try and cancel me, but I'm not cancelled, and he lives a life where he doesn't feel like he's cancelled. I found that really inspirational. And he also said that actually, imagine getting all the cancelled people together. He's like, number one, it would be the best dinner party ever. And number two, there's so many of us now who are considered cancelled. Actually, at some point, will we become like the new mainstream?
But yes, I think that's the key point, because there's always going to be the counterculture, backlash, and rebellion. So generations do it all the time. Right now, the younger generation, Alpha, are rebelling against, Generation Z are rebelling against millennials. Alpha is next. But the point of this is that they need to be ready. Those who are doing cancellation, the so-called liberal cosmopolitan establishment elitist idiots, they don't understand that their time will be up eventually. And because they hold positions and authority that is outdated, whether you're talking about the corporate legacy media or the outdated political parties or things like that, and certain cultural institutions that need to be updated. You guys are dead. Even some of the businesses, old school corporations who have gone woke. There are better products in terms of the new tech platforms and everything else. They are taking over. So you guys will be gone eventually.
Well, yes. And on that note, Maya, I wanted to ask you about the GB News question, right? Because David Starkey was cancelled by GB News too. Now, there definitely seems to have been a decision, a purposeful decision by that broadcaster to to the centre, almost a bit like what we've been seeing with Reform UK and Nigel Farage. Now, I know for a fact, because I was obviously there and you would appear on my show, but you had offers to go and work for GB News, where they would sort of own you to an extent. Maybe you would have been able to continue your independent stuff a little bit, but once you're on GB News, you have to sign up to their editorial charter. You have to sort of be owned by them in a lot of ways. Like, their presenters are not allowed to talk about Tommy Robinson, for example, on a regular basis. Why did you decide not to go with GB News? And have you been disappointed to see what's happened to the broadcaster, especially since the departure of myself, Calvin Robinson, Mark Stein, and Laurence Fox, which seemed to be like the tipping point where they said, okay, we're going to go mainstream now?
Yeah, well, the reason I said no to that the job opportunity with GB News to have my own show was that was for a different reason. It was my own instinct, and I knew this is a dead end. Why would I do this? Because either eventually my show will be cancelled, or at the end of the day, let's just say I'll do this show for like, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. What's next? I can't go to Sky News. Like, where am I going to go? So what's the point of doing this? And there will be restrictions anyway. I don't like the analog, old school studio structure, and obviously I can imagine you're now much happier with the format you have here. You can do whatever you want, even if the show goes longer than an hour. But it was that. But I'm not completely shocked about what GB News has been doing, because I knew that attitude before, just like what we talk about Reform UK. They want to play the game and they want to be part of the game. And some of these restrictions are nothing to do with Ofcom. BBC News and Sky News can and will talk about Tommy Robinson and interview him. Now, Tommy shouldn't go on those channels anymore, but he used to. GB News has banned him. This is not an Ofcom issue. Same that we said about Reform UK, for example. And people, their supporters of GB News or Reform would say, yeah, but it's good to be inside the tent. We'll have to play the game, of course. We have to play the game. I'm like, sure, play the game, but to what end? It doesn't mean you have to be some sort of anarchist, anti-establishment person, like whether you're doing new media or in politics, but you can still be yourself. And if you're patient and if you're right, if what you're doing is right, you will take over. As we are saying, when it comes to new media has already taken over, but literally within the next few years, with President Trump normalizing new media in the White House, we can see that new media's influence is already here anyway. Same applies to any political leader or candidate or party. Just be yourself. If people like it, you will take over. You don't have to compromise on your values.
Yeah, very, very good point. And it actually makes me so sad on a daily basis when I see people who I thought I respected prepared to compromise just to keep the paycheck. And look, I get it, right? Like, I do get it. It was a shock. It was a big shock with what happened to me. Like I lost both my jobs literally overnight because of this comment that Laurence Fox made on my show. And it was a huge shock, and I was really worried about it. But I knew they weren't going to silence me. I knew cancellation wouldn't silence me. And as you say, I could not be happier now with where it's ended up. But look, I want to show you the first look at Cancelled, which launches 9 p.m. Sunday on Tousi TV. Watch.
Free speech is one of the main cornerstones of Western civilization.
When I was at school, when I thought of cancel culture, my first thought went to YouTubers who had to make apology videos for saying something stupid. It wasn't anything to do with politics.
But today, it is under threat.
There is no true free speech in this country. It's utterly terrifying.
Under the guise of safety and social justice, governments across the West are clamping down on what we can say.
You're giving the state far too much power that it will inevitably abuse.
Will freedom of thought and speech become a thing of the past in the UK?
Ofcom will be an organ of the state to decide what's true and what's false.
Oh my goodness, I want to watch it now. That looks so good. And Maya, that really does get me thinking about Tousi TV. And I know you have spoken in the past about the fact that at some point you might have to broadcast overseas in order to still spread the truth into the UK. When you've seen what's happened to journalists lately, like I'm thinking about two of my good friends, Bernie Spoffworth and Alison Pearson, who have both been really horrified to have like policemen turn up at their house. I mean, in Bernie's case, she spent like 3 days in a cell because of a post on X. Do you worry that the deep state could actually try to silence you if you do stay in the UK?
Yeah, but I'm not necessarily scared of the so-called deep state. I'm actually scared of more of the obvious average bureaucrats, and that is a bigger problem than dealing with, for example, any sort of division part of the Home Office or the palace, obviously palace in general. We have restrictions here because you said in the documentary, we don't actually have free speech here. People keep saying, "Oh, free speech is in danger in this country," but we don't have it. We have limited speech. And it's not going to be easy. And I will be freer to do a live stream from a tunnel in Gaza than what I'm doing now. And that's not right for anybody.
And Mahyar, of course, you have had a huge amount of pressure in terms of Met Police's dealings with you, for example. Do you think that comes from a place of them trying to almost terrify you into silence? Is that what the motivation is?
Yeah, but not in the sense that they had some sort of secret meeting about me. It's hardwired, and their biases is hardwired. So it's all the whole of the establishment. So when the police or somebody at the police leaked my report, and two other people as well, two friends of mine, and putting our lives at risk, especially Niak Borbani, the media. The mainstream media, they knew about it. GB News knew about it, and the press as well. Nobody touched it until Daily Mail picked it up. With everything we say, actually, big shout out to the Mail for being brave enough to talk about it. Because they didn't want to normalize my branding.
Yes, exactly.
That's the problem.
It's so disgusting. So many of their decisions are made not by what's right, but by the fact that if they talk about Mahyar Tousi, if they talk about Tousi TV, we're almost accepting that he's a legitimate part of the media landscape, and we can't do that. So it's the same thing like when I interviewed Rupert Lowe, still the first interview that he's done since all of the Reform UK stuff. Not a word on GB News because they don't want to acknowledge that we exist. I think it's a huge mistake, right? Like the thing that they should be doing is actually leaning into the independent media, realizing that we're part of the ecosystem, using the best parts of our content in the same way that we use the best parts of their content. That is the most sensible thing. But what I always find, because remember, I worked in newspapers, right, which have been like the Titanic for years. And what's so interesting about the mainstream media, they will always try and protect what they had because they don't want the people to have the power. They want to be able to control the message. And now I look at the type of things that The Sun writes about Tommy Robinson, I'm like, God, was I ever that brainwashed? Like, how on earth could I have worked for a place that would say that type of thing about Tommy Robinson? It's nuts. But I guess when you are part of it, Mahyar, you don't necessarily push too hard because you know that if you push too hard, you're going to be out on your air.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. And this is it. It goes back to your mainstream politicians because they're still in the bubble that you mentioned. That even you were when you were at The Sun. So they just need to do their own homework, and they tend not to.
Yes, no, and for me, my big wake up was over Brexit and over the COVID lockdowns. Before that, I'd sort of been working in the entertainment space, so it was a real change for me. But look, Mahyar, you're an inspiration at Tousi TV. For people who don't know, you helped me so much when I was at my absolute lowest point. Everyone else walked away, and I will forever remember that. I love Tousi TV, love everything you do. Such an honor to be part of this documentary. I know you're doing lots more, and I think that's a really interesting space for you to get into too, this long form content, because there is such a demand for it. So cancelled, launches 9 p.m. And is this something that you have to be signed up to Tousi TV Plus to watch?
Yes, but you get 10% discount now. So if you go on tousi.tv, on the main website. And if you sign up on the annual memberships, you get 10% discount if you use the promo code cancelled10.
Cancelled 10. And the number 10.
10.
Cancelled 10. Okay, excellent. Because otherwise you're not going to be able to watch. And I go into my whole story, everything that happened in a way that I never have before. So please do sign up. Mahyar Tousi, brilliant to have you today. Thank you so much. Now, let me get to your comments. And of course, it's all on, as ever, the whole Reform UK civil war. So Steve Chick says, if Nigel does a deal, Reform voters will walk. There is still time for a splinter party. And I think there is. There is still time. I mean, look, there's 4 years until the next election. There's still time. John Roberts writes, Farage is the biggest obstacle to the right. Better if he retired. But Gizmo said UKIP are a bit extreme. But with the right leadership, Rupert Lowe and others, they could stand a chance if we get behind them. And Jilly said, I keep asking that same question of what is Reform doing with the illegal immigrants already in the country? Exactly. That is my question. Jilly, like, they cannot pull the wool over our eyes. We know that Nigel will turn back the new arrivals, but the fact is, in 4 years' time, there's going to be 2 million illegals already here. And are we just going to accept that? No, you're completely right. That is the key point. Okay, Uni and Jackass time now. Brilliant nominees from you today. Meghan Markle, nominated by Lady MFC for denouncing her army of online trolls who are viciously attacking Dr Sophie Chandauka. Redmond Sullivan, nominated by Anna Ireland, a male fencer until the 2nd of April this year when he competed as a woman in a US fencing event in Maryland. And Sadiq Khan, nominated by Jane Kendrick for refusing an investigation on the Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs. Or let's be honest, that was, I think, Jane's words, but I call them rape gangs in London. So let's have a look. With 3%, Redmond Sullivan, and I think that's probably because not many of you have heard of him, but it was shocking what he did. With 13%, the runner-up, Meghan Markle. But wow, this is the most overwhelming vote of the week. With 84%, London's failed mayor, Sadiq Khan, your Union Jackass today. Now, you know, because it's Thursday, what we do is we put all of our Union Jackasses from the week to the vote in the community tab or in the posts tab on YouTube. I'll put that up straight after the show. They go head to head to be named the worst Britain in the world this week. I am going to be so interested because you've got Tahir Ali, the Labour MP from Monday, James O'Brien on Tuesday, Prince Harry on Wednesday, and now Sadiq Khan on Thursday. So who is the worst Briton in the world this week? You're going to have to be with us tomorrow at 5 p.m. to find out. Today's greatest Briton, though, is an honorary, and it's Adam Crombie, 67, who nominated Donald Trump for having balls of steel, and that he does. Okay, please do join us on Substack now, though, for the uncancelled after show with the royal YouTube sensation, according to Taz. We are digging deep into this as ever launch because honestly, it was a sham and we didn't have a chance to properly discuss it earlier because of the Prince Harry breaking news. So please get to www.outspoken.live, sign up for the uncancelled after show. All you have to do is pay the monthly fee. It's £5 plus VAT if you're in the UK, but it is really important to me that you also just sign up totally for free because it's the best way for us to maintain that relationship and protect me from cancellation. So www.outspoken.live is the address. We are back tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Please hit subscribe right now if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble. And most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.